Welcome back to Album Coverage, where we run through a recording artist's back catalog, cover by cover, and this time we're looking at the surprisingly prolific English synth-pop duo Erasure, who somehow have managed to put out about 80 albums during their time together. Well, I mean, their time together hasn't been short. This goes back to 1986, with Wonderland, their debut album. Now, of course, Erasure were Vince Clarke, ex-Yazoo, ex-Depeche Mode, who already had a few albums under his belt by the time he hooked up with Andy Bell, his new lead singer, and, this one lasted, because, as I said, 70 albums. And the debut here, Wonderland, it's got a very retro look to it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about each of these albums, to be honest, because there's a lot, and the aesthetic is rather similar for a lot of them. So there's Dude with a big knife. I think we call them swords. There's Dude with a big sword, and there's Ballerina Girl, and that's it. That's Wonderland. And in 1987, we got The Circus, which doesn't have a very attractive album cover. It's splattered paint of, I believe, a rather cartoony picture of a person with a big nose, around which are swirls of paint and color, and apparently it includes 3 extra tracks, probably on the CD. It's less of a good album cover, in my opinion, than the Two-Ring Circus, which was a kind of rehash of the Circus. Remixes and live tracks and stuff like that. What probably today would have been the second CD of a 2 CD special limited edition set, but at the time came out as a release of its own. And the circus idea is actually kind of here, because you've got bears on balls. One bear on a ball, the other bear running towards its ball, which is circusy. And The Innocents, which is 1988. And there's a very, it's stained glass. I was going to say it's a very religious album cover tone, but yes, the tone is religious when it's stained glass. Except that it's not really. It seems to be partially colored in from something that's black and white. But anyway, it's like it's 2 holy people, one of which is sad and dolorous, and the other of which has got his hand up, and maybe that's Jesus, I don't know. And this is an EP, Crackers International. I did include EPs. I mightn't have, but I did. And there was something Christmassy about this, which is why there's some snow. And apart from that, it looks like Moscow, really. I don't know. It's got Stop on it. And this is Wild, which came out in 1989. Can't say very much about this album cover. Like a lot of the album covers, the main focus is the name of the album, which is just giant here. Wild! Exclamation point. But it's not a very wild album cover. It's Leaves. Yeah. And here's Chorus. Finally, we've got a photograph of the pair of them, except that it's all been weirded up, like they've got robot brains, and the album cover is showing their robot brains. Andy on the left side and Vince on the right side. That's Chorus. ABBA-esque, a breakthrough for them, their first #1, and a breakthrough for ABBA, apparently. They became cool again after this. I don't know. But in any case, even though ABBA-esque is not from Chorus in any way, the 2 album covers look definitely linked. This lowercase repeated shadow E is there again as a background, and the logo, the Erasure logo, is the same. But it's just got a giant ABBA logo. And the logo, right? Because ABBA had a specific logo, which was trademarked. And it's really large on the album cover, and Erasure's own name is much smaller. And here's Pop! 20 hits, the first of many, many compilations. And yeah, there's a kind of, this could be an advertisement for some kind of candy or household cleaning product or something like that. I have nothing to say about it. I say. I don't have much to say about this either. It's 1994, by the way. That's where we've gotten to. The name is spelt out interestingly. The E, A, U, and E, which are vowels. Hey, look at that. Are they're like the letters that you might stick on your fridge. And then the R, S, and R are computery stuff, chips and cables and a board. And all of this is happening in front of some sort of like woodcut out of somebody's rendition of Snow White. I have no idea. There's a castle, and it's wintry. And I think there's two people in the middle there, two little boys that I suppose might be Vince and Andy. And this is Erasure in 1995, and this is so ugly. This is so ugly. I hope it was a friend of the band who painted it. I mean, it can't be, because Andy looks like he wants to kill whoever's painting it. Why this album cover? I'm sorry to whoever painted it. I'm sure you're very talented in your own way, but it is ugly. And you've got Cowboy in 1997. And by the way, they're on mute, and they've always been on mute, and they will die on mute in the UK. But in the United States, at this particular stretch of their career, they're on Madonna's record label. And isn't that weird? This must be the British one, though, because it says Mute Records Presents, not Maverick Records Presents. Cowboy. And that is a riding. Yeah, I should probably just pause this and look up Google and find out what that thing is called. I know what it is. It's in the rodeo. You sit on it and it bounces around and it tries to throw you off. And it succeeds at some point in throwing you off. Bucking bronco is what it would be called if it were a real animal. But it's not. So let's call it a fake bucking bronco and leave it at that. And it's sitting in the middle of what looks like a cafe. Why? I don't know, because an album needs an album cover. Now, Buried Treasure, this kind of cool album cover, actually, of Andy and Vince's deep underground recording studio, which is right next door to Batman's Batcave, would be a much cooler album cover if it were really, an album. I mean, it is, but it's something that only came out for their fan club, Buried Treasure. So I stuck those in also because they've got their own album covers. And this one is more interesting than a lot of the legit album covers that did come out. Love Boat promises something new. The Love Boat. Set a course for adventure. Yeah. That's a boat. Again, yellow stars on red. A little bit communisty. But it says Love Boat, and it's a picture of a boat, and I don't know what else to say about it. Other people's songs. This is the covers album. Erasure definitely went through all the motions of what you need to do to make a career, which includes putting out a covers album at some point. And Other People's Songs is, I will grant, a good name for a covers album. And they have somebody is throwing an old gramophone deep, high into the air, and you can see their hands, and you can see the gramophone flying in the air, and that's that. Hits. The very best of Erasure. What should we put on our greatest hits album cover? What about Swans? Yes, good, done. Okay, goodbye. Nightbird. This is, again, ugly. They're really embracing an ugly aesthetic here. And it's them, I guess. It's two guys. Could be Andy and Vince. Sitting on trees, but the whole thing is as if it's been cut out of tin. And there is a bird, kind of. It's a whole bunch of lights that is vaguely bird-shaped, and it's what they're looking at. And that's that. And here's Union Street. I'm bored of these album covers. I don't have much to say about this. It's a street. It's hand-drawn. And it's clearly somebody said, Erasure, you need a new album cover. And they said, okay, get somebody to paint something. Or looked through a whole bunch of paintings at a bargain shop and found this. I have nothing to say about it. Or the next album, which is exactly the same album cover. It's called Acoustic Live, and they didn't even bother to take off the name Union Street in replicating the album cover and just writing the words Acoustic Live over it. But the words Erasure are written smaller on top. You know, if you go back and look at the other one, Erasure is much larger. Buried Treasure 2. That's what that album cover looks like. EIS Live. That's what that album cover looks like. Both of those were also fan club only, so I don't mind skipping ahead of them so much. Light at the End of the World. There's a diamond really big and really sparkly, and it says Erasure, and it says Light at the End of the World around it. And really, I mean, I would dare even the best Erasure fan to take all of these album covers and assemble them chronologically in the correct way and not just have them all bleed into each other. I don't know if it's possible. Live at the Royal Albert Hall, you know, same. Clearly this has to do with Light at the End of the World. It's that album live or something like that. Or rather, the live album from the tour for that album. Because it's got a bit of a similar vibe to it. But you've also got Andy grandstanding, as you do on stage. And he's in red while the rest of it is in blue. So it's a little bit interesting, but not much. Pop Treasure, which is also a fan club release. And, oh my gosh, okay, remember that other album, Pop? Remember how I didn't like this album cover very much? Okay, here's Pop Treasure, and then after that, here's Pop 2, 20 hits, the second 20 hits. And see how it looks exactly like the other one? Ain't that cute? Well, what about this? Pop, Total Pop Deluxe Box, 40 hits. That's 20 plus 20. Guess what? It's the first two Pop albums stuck together. Had enough? No. What about this? Pop Remixed. I hate it all. And that all came out in 2009, by the way. Well, Pop Treasure came out in December of 2008, but all this glut came out in February of 2009. And then still in 2009, you've got another tangential release, Club Erasure, which, of course, as you can guess, is, you know, Club remixes. That's why there's an E and a C on this album cover. Okay, back to the real catalog, and this is 2011 and Tomorrow's World. I'm going to try to understand what's going on here. It's a heart with a bunch of like leaves and stuff that's weirding it out on the outside. That looks like it could be a golf ball or a peanut or a testicle. If you wonder what I'm talking about, I'm identifying one of these four kind of things at the very top of the heart, and there are butterflies. There's a bird inside, and it's weird. It's not boring, though, and boring's been a lot of the problems I've had with these Erasure covers, so I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, I don't like this because it's not boring. I have different reasons not to like this. Erasure Essential, yeah, whatever. Snow Globe, yeah, whatever. I'm sorry. It's a horrible album cover. I had to skip past it as quickly as I could because I didn't want to look at it. Now here's the Violet Flame, I'm sorry, and the album cover comes out in two very different versions. Well, not very different, they're the same thing, just colored differently. This is a kind of, what's it called? Dia los Muertos? Day of the Dead? I don't know how to say it in Spanish. I'm not Spanish, and neither are Andy and Vince. But a kind of Day of the Dead fancied up skull in kind of gold on violet, or this, which is kind of gold on white. Very different pairing of colors. I'm not sure which one I like better. Probably the first one. Always Erasure, the very best of. Always the very best of Erasure. It's a heart. Now, when you finally get the chance to put out a 25-disc CD boxed set, you got to make sure you name it wisely, which is why you don't call it From Moscow to Mars. I know, it's from Star, which is from Crackers International, I think. We go waiting for the star. See, I know Erasure, I know. But From Moscow to Mars is a pretty dumb name for an album, for a compilation, isn't it? Really? You're not from Moscow. You're not from Mars. You're from Basildon. And you're all done up in spacesuits. And Vince is looking really serious. Andy, not. Okay, we're almost at the end of the Erasure story. This is World Be Gone. This is from 2017. It's the first of two. No, sorry. This is from 2017, but the next one is 2018. But they're connected albums anyway. This is World Be Gone with a picture of a ship at open sea, very rough sea, with a woman angel on the hull, and the woman angel is cutting through the water. And this is World Be Gone, which is a guy on the hull of what's otherwise the very same thing, with his hair fluttering back so pretty. I wonder if he's supposed to be Andy. World Beyond, sorry, World Be Gone was the first one. This one is called World Beyond. It's probably like the acoustic version of the first album, or it's some different kind of version. I could probably check that out and give you the real information, but I can't be bothered. So, look up World Beyond and find out its relationship to World Be Gone, because clearly it exists. And, well, that's finally all for Erasure. Not really. I'm sure they're going to put out 100 more albums until they die, and then after they die, they'll just continue to do it again and again and again with the same kinds of album covers. And one day I'll have to do Erasure 2 and talk about all of those, and won't that be a sunny day in my life? Goodbye.